Well, it's me, see? It's the hard. And I'm coming. I'm gonna come. And I'm coming with me hard footprints. Me, the hard, see? Here I come now. It's me, the hard. See, I'm the hard, right? If it's hard boys you want, you come to me, because I've got them on. I must be hard. And to put the clocks back an hour, I've lost an hour's hardness, haven't I?
And that was Foffo Spearjig. I've been worried about that all afternoon. He's proving a man can behave like a prawn and still get on live telly. Foffo was originally called Wavis O'Shave, but changed his name yet again. The oddest thing of all is his first name.
It's a hard dog, and it's starting to rig next week, aren't you? And it pours all the other dogs in. Cement mix I fell on its heat and I thought it was a fly, see? And me, I'm not hard. I was hard before I was hard.
His real name, incidentally, is Rod Stewart, and he proudly declares himself to be a genuine lunatic. Foffo has made records with such memorable titles as Anna Ford's Bum, and used to plague media offices with letters usually containing a fig roll. Well, O'Shave, Wavis O'Shave, that's his other name, managed to actually present the ITN presenter with a copy of the album, and that, incidentally, is her on the right, and that got into the music press. Debbie Harry, unfortunately, was another star who managed to fall victim to Foffo, as was Toya Wilcox, for whom he had a particular soft spot. It was with some degree of disbelief then that earlier this year the music press reported the death of Wavis O'Shave due to eating a mercury omelette. In fact, this turned out to be a prank. Well, the Tube's proud to report that we managed to catch up with Wavis O'Shave, whose new name's Foffo Spearjig, and we sent Nick Laird clues to South Shields to find out the truth.
Didn't believe me, the hard is hard. Hand, hammer, hand, me the hard, right? Felt Nowt.
What's the hard all about?
The hard.
What's it based on?
It lampoons the basic ingredients of rebel rousing, I believe. It says a lot for the character who hogs the sort of the streets, you know what I mean? I don't smoke or drink, etc. I'm not hard, I don't take drugs, no women, all that, you know what I mean? But I mean, the hard, he says it all, right? If you're not one of them, you're out of place, you don't fit into society, and here I am.
Right.
That's how hard I am. And I've had 73 pints of beer and I'm not drunk yet. And then I've gone to the pub till closing time.
Well, listen, I mean, there was a great comic tradition with people like Charlie Chaplin and Lenny Bruce where they picked on things that were wrong in society and they laughed at them, and by laughing at them, sort of made you reevaluate them. Do you think you're carrying on that great comic tradition?
I certainly am, John.
Good, thank you, Lenny. The only other thing is there seems to be this paradox that you court the press on one hand and that you always appearing with people like Debbie Harry, Toya Wilcox, even Rod Stewart and Britt Eklund. But in fact, I mean, you could be another Kenny Everett or an alternative Jasper Carrot.
Oi, less of the Kenny Everett bit, less of the Kenny Everett bit, right?
Crazy Ken. But I mean, you could be another one of those sort of comedians. But even though you court the press, you don't seem to want to be famous. What is your ambition? What do you want?
I've just got to try and get through my life like everybody else has to get through their life, but I have to do it my own way, which is like, there's a famous Chinese proverb that says, those who choose a separate path cannot show each other the way, so I'll just go my way, right? If you can't understand me, that's fair enough, you know what I mean? But, you know what I mean? But,
What? You didn't believe him, huh? I'll punch you in your best friend's moustache if you didn't think I'm the hardest of the lot, right? I felt Nowt. So no, I knocked it over then.
Anyway, I did say that there were going to be some really interesting guests coming along. One of them is a person who has actually been on the show before, a man probably internationally known as as the hardest man in the entire universe, the entire man in the entire galaxy, in fact. A man, Foffo Spearjig, I think is his name, and he is now arriving, so I'm just going to...
No, because it's me the hard, see? I hate Christmas, and I'm big bloody son of a... So you want some hard toys, do you? There's a hard toy for you, me love. Do you wait like I do me wait? Because I'm a hard lad. I do me wait, and I got tattoos. I got knee and big boots, so I'm gonna be hard. Yeah. You do your wait, son?
No.
Where's your tattoos, lad? Where's your bloody nose? Staring at me like I'm a skinny Nowt. Skinny Nowt.
You talking to me?
You think you're hard, do you? Do you think you're hard?
She does.
I'm the hardest.
Particularly bad luck, Foffo. So instead we're now going to wander into the pub because I think we might meet somebody interesting. We will be seeing more of Foffo later. But now we actually have, if I turn my pieces of paper around, where's the door to the pub? No dogs allowed. Well, perhaps I'll get in though.
Oh, I hate them. Come here, Puffsy. Oh, I hate Christmas. You should have to heed-butt each other under the mistletoe. And you see how I'm being up and feeling Nowt. Christmas. Humbug. About Nowt. Case of Nowt feeling. That's me some Christmas pudding. Hard turkey now. I'm not hard. Me Christmas granddad used to put brewing in me hot water bottle, see? He'd but staring at her as it was, see? Some people think Christmas gifts are a dear, so go out and spend it on beer. Build some hard snowmen under the Christmas tree, and I'll knock them out if they're staring at me. Some people on trees and put fairy lights. Me, I'd rather go out and have a good fight, see? Staring at me. Me hair, big boots, tattoos. Gotta be a hard lad, send tattoos each other for Christmas. Now, when Christmas is near, dude, I'm the hardest. Because I eat holly, see, and I feel empty, but I'm getting worked up now for Christmas, see, because I felt Nowt. I feel Nowt. Felt Nowt. Nowt. I hate Christmas. It's not hard enough. Snow's too soft like hailstones. It's hard. I've got me hard weights in here. I'm delivering me to all the lads at Christmas. I was feeling out in case you were interested. See, feeling out. I'm gonna deliver me presents in there. Me hard presents. God. After all this, like, I might have felt something. But between you and me, privately and confidentially, I felt Nowt. Oh, I felt Nowt.
And the first show was amazing because we managed to get the Jam, who were one of the biggest bands in around at the time, and Pete Townsend from the Who up there, and what I and Jeff Brown and I think one or two others, but it was a very closely guarded secret, knew was that the Jam and Paul Weller, who loved the idea of the Tube, loved the idea of a show being all live music and not videos or miming, had decided that this was the show where they would actually announce that they were splitting up, and that would be the last time you would ever see them live. And Pete Townsend, who was a massive fan of the Jam, wanted to be there for the occasion. So immediately we set the seeds in that first program for creating a live event on a Friday night. So when you switched on, you tuned in, you literally didn't know what you're going to get. And if you missed it, you'd never see it again. One of the people that we'd stumbled across was this mad kind of anarchist poet called Mark My Words. He's like a punk poet. I know Mark hates that expression, but it's probably nearest you can get to describe him. And basically Mark had a absolutely razor sharp scalpel wit, and a real sense of what was going on that week. He was like a one-man Heat magazine, and he would just deliver a stream of consciousness, razor blades and dum-dum bullets of what had happened that week and who was doing what with whom and who was getting it on, and it was just fabulous. And it was almost like the lyrics of a Jam song or a Clash song, only done as poetry. And Mark became again a regular feature on the programmes live, you know, in his own little way, for me, was as important a part of the kind of cocktail of the Tube as you two were.
We decided as we were developing the Tube that we couldn't sustain an hour and 45 minutes of live television every week just by putting some bands on the telly and getting them to play their new record loud. So there were kind of, it started off as kind of culture, but very soon descended into complete comedy, anarchy, and sometimes people who you know really should have had a care in the community kind of or ASBO on them. One of those guys was a local guy who I can't even remember what his real name was. He used to go by various names: Rod Stewart, Malcolm someone. He became famous on John Peel's show as Wavis O'Shave. By the time the Tube came around, he came to us under the guise of Foffo Spearjig. And he had this amazing character that a lot of people remember and a lot of people have copied in various ways, who was called the Hard, who wore Dr. Martens on his hands and on his feet, and a kind of ridiculous kind of Dennis the Menace style stripy shirt. And he had a skinhead, of course. And, you know, the things that went out on the programme were the transmittable things. Sometimes he used to send us VHS tapes that he'd done himself, which were really, really kind of not very transmittable. We would have got in horrendous trouble at the time on a Friday night because the show started at 5:15 and finished at 7 o'clock. We had to be really careful. Well, we were as careful as we could be. But the thing we did on the show worked mainly on the script. You know, it's me, the Hard. I'm going to start on the rigs next week. You know, it's all that kind of stuff. But on the original demo tape that he sent us, he would boil a kettle and then pick the kettle up, put his mouth over the spout and drink out of it, and then put an iron on his face, you know, like a steaming electrical iron on his face and stuff like that. He said, "But Nowt, 'cause I'm hard." And he was just stunningly brilliant. The one thing that we really want to do, particularly Malcolm and I want to have on TV, was he did this thing with some broken plastic toy dolls, not as in the band The Toy Dolls, but real plastic toy dolls. And it was called the Non-Swearies Puppet Show. And there was a black doll and a white doll, and one would turn around and go, "Hey, what are you looking at? Fuck off." And it was just the most brilliant, the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. I remember Simple Minds distinctly on the show because they were really loud, they were awesome, they had two drummers, and the way Jim Kerr used to kind of move around like that, well, you can see already, it's not a cameraman's ideal thing, is it, if somebody does that? But he used to dance like a dodgem around the stage, you know, and I always expected him to be carrying a skull and doing a last poor Yorick, because, you know, he kind of always had these like really skinny legs with skinny trousers on. But they were just one of the archetypical Tube type bands because they were cool, they were big, they were the hottest band around at the moment, and they could really, really play live superbly well.
Dexys Midnight Runners, featuring, of course, our Kevin. I'd already encountered Dexys, being a Birmingham lad. My first memories of Dexys was Kevin Rowland's blatant refusal to talk to anybody from the press. They used to issue full-page adverts saying, Dexys are not this, we're not that, and we're not talking to the press. However, when they found that their tickets weren't selling very well, suddenly this embargo completely evaporated, and I found myself being told that I would be interviewing Kevin Rowlands on Midlands Television. Since that day, we've actually kept in touch and become quite good friends. Kevin Rowlands is someone I would never back against because there is a touch of genius there. And when Dexys appeared on the Tube, they were out of their stevedore outfits, the Dockers look, and they were into this sort of hybrid Celtic soul rebels. We didn't make the classic mistake that Top of the Pops did by putting a picture of Jockey Wilson behind him, for Jackie Wilson said. We actually gave him something a bit more decent. And obviously, it was an incredible powerhouse set from Dexys.
The song that they opened up with, which was a very strange, spooky little song. If you can imagine Jacques Brel ever writing a soundtrack for, say, a Wes Craven movie, I think it would have probably been along those lines. It was Mark Armand singing like the new Scott Walker. Then he actually listened to the lyrics, and it was about this extremely disturbed person called Martin. But the other thing I'll never forget about it was we had a lot of performances from a lot of bands who were just two-piece bands at that time. And you would normally think, well, how are we going to make a two-piece band look interesting for, let alone 3 minutes, 9, 12, sometimes 13, 14 minutes. And one of the other great things that we had going for the Tube was that our designers would talk to the band's designers or record company designers and would make something based on their logos or based on the artwork from their album to use as a backdrop. And in the case of Soft Cell, it was this very, very weird sort of Candyman face that they had. And using that, developing that, and developing lighting effects and everything else, I will never forget how Gavin Taylor made that such an extraordinary moment on the Tube. And it sticks in everyone's mind. I know the Soft Cell fans will love it because Mark Armand's got some of the most trustworthy and loyal fans that anybody could ever have. So I just can't wait to hear what the reaction's going to be when they see the DVD, because it's there forever now, short of us blowing ourselves up, being hit by an asteroid, or being invaded by homophobic aliens. I think it'll still be around forever. Iggy Pop was a handful. The first time he came on, it was, you know, we always thought we could cope with rock and roll, but rock and roll on that level, it was a nightmare. I remember him coming in and everything, and then he just disappeared between the sound checks. He disappeared for a couple of hours, and everyone's looking all over the place for him. He had loads and loads of people looking after him, a couple of miners, management, record companies, everyone there. Disappeared off the face of the earth. And I remember walking through the Scene Dock, which was like a huge warehouse that used to join up the Studio 5 where the Tube came from, with Studio 1, with some of the other programmes we did. And there was loads of other scenery stored there from other programmes. And I heard all this moaning coming from, it was really, really spooky, eerie moaning. I think, what on earth's going on there? And I followed it through all these flats and different sort of rostering things, and there's Iggy just rocking backwards and forwards, half asleep, obviously exhausted from touring. So anyway, we got him pulled together. And then when he went on the stage, I think it was an English band backing him on his English tour. And I don't know how well they knew him, but I remember going through the number you're going to see where he just suddenly decides to mount the drum kit, and we just think he's about to smash the drum kit up at one stage. Then he takes the guitar and starts to play the guitar for the guitarist. But again, an unforgettable performance. He's dancing around, he falls flat out at the finish. Imagination, that was the first Christmas show we did on Christmas Eve. And the reason why it was unforgettable was that it was such a mad dash to get the flight back to London up at Newcastle Airport, which used to leave at 7 o'clock sometimes that night, on those nights when we first started off. And this particular night, Imagination had gone dashing up to the airport in their stage clothes, and they were spotted running across the tarmac on the runway to get on the plane with glitter jumpsuits on. Subsequently, a few weeks after that, British Airways actually altered the flight to leave at 7:30 so everyone could catch it, so it became the Tube flight.